Hottie, there is a Shimano product we've talked about quite recently that I got to bring up again.
Yeah, well, we're closing in on 150 episodes, so I think you could be forgiven for talking about things more than once, but what are you thinking of?
The new S-Fire mountain bike shoes. We talked about them a couple of episodes ago in terms of them being a refined version of the previous version of the XC9s, and then last week I got a pair. And saying they are a refinement of the previous version of the shoe really undersells them.
Of course you got a pair, so
Of course I did.
how are they different?
It's little things making a big difference. That might sound kind of familiar. The upper fixes one little niggle I had about the previous versions of these shoes, and that was the tongue would sort of fold and crease if you were careless in how you put the shoes on and dialed them in. The perforations now on the top give the shoe more breathability, which was a huge deal. Last weekend when I was riding in between 104 and 111 degree temperatures, and the lacing pattern for the front boa is more even, and you can feel it. So I can say as someone who has ridden exclusively with the S-Fire shoes, both road and mountain, for years, these little things are adding up. They are without question the most comfortable mountain biking shoes I have ever owned. And as the hardest working touch point for your bike, the importance of that comfort cannot be overstated. I've loved the S-Fires for years and years, but honestly, Hottie, these are incredible.
Yeah, marginal gains and your shoes. It is a thing, right? Little refinements that make a great thing really great does seem to be the hallmark of everything from Shimano. I'm glad you're liking them. Learn about the S-Fire shoes at bike.shimano.com.
And thanks to Shimano for being the title sponsor of this show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. It is season 7, episode 17 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Hotton, Hottie to most.
And I'm Fatty, but honestly, it doesn't really matter who we are in this episode, because in this episode, we are turning the show over to the ladies.
Right, Fatty. Not too long ago, a listener posted a question on the LT100 mountain bike participants page wondering if we could have Lisa the Hammer Nelson on the show talking about the race from a woman's point of view.
Yep. And that was obviously a good idea, seeing as how she is very well positioned to become the second woman to finish the Leadville Trail 100 20 times. In fact, she will hit that goal next year, knock on wood.
Right. The only woman with more finishes than the Hammer is the great Roxanne Hall, who we featured on the show back in season 4, episode 12.
Yep. And here's the thing, Hottie. There is sort of a you don't know what you don't know problem with a couple of guys talking about women and training and racing the Leadville Trail 100. So this episode, we are going to step back and let a very high-performing mother-daughter duo take the stage.
Right. We've tried, but in the end, we're just a couple of guys. But hey, before we turn over the mics, Fatty, I've got a question. When are we getting our 2024 Leadville podcast jerseys and t-shirts?
Very soon. I talked with DNA late last week, and I have great news. The shirts are printed, and the jerseys are en route from Italy and are going to be here next week. And in fact, some of you may be getting them this week. So you're all going to have your jerseys and your t-shirts by mid-June.
Actually, I just checked my email, Fatty, and I did get a confirmation from DNA that my stuff is on the way. So that's great to hear. Even better to know that you and I aren't going to be the ones who package and ship all this stuff.
Yeah, our listeners can be grateful for that too. Order fulfillment is not exactly our specialty, but it is DNA's specialty. From design to orders to production to delivery, DNA Cycling really takes custom cycling clothing to the highest level, which means you and I don't have to.
And it's not like we're getting any special treatment here than, at least compared to our DNA customers or anyone for that matter. They make creating and delivering custom cycling gear about as easy as it can possibly be.
Yep. So while it is a little too late to order custom cycling clothing for the 2024 Leadville Trail 100, it is never too early to plan your custom crew or team kit for next year or next season or whenever. Head on over to dnacycling.com Choose custom and be sure to tell them that the Leadville podcast sent you.
And here comes Eldon Nelson with 14 minutes to spare on that clock. The bragging rights and the heavy hardware, that's all you. Welcome back to your Leadville family and your finish line.
All right, Fatty's finishing tips, where Fatty learns things the hard way so you don't have to.
That should be the theme of this show. It's especially true in this episode, Hottie. I had what could charitably be called an instructive ride last weekend. Lisa and I went on a very tough, long road ride, 80 miles, 10,500 feet of climbing, and the forecast was for a very hot day. And luckily, in sarcasm quotes, I started the day with a bad stomach. Not enough to keep me off the bike, but bad enough that the thought of food and drink really repelled me. You know the feeling.
Unintended heat training and a little GI test, right? Mm-hmm. So, should there be a listener warning here?
No, we've learned that lesson. I made the mistake of making a game time decision to hold off eating and drinking, at least until I felt better. That's what I told myself.
How long was that?
I think I had my first drink, my first gel, about 3 hours and 4,500 feet of climbing in. By then, I was feeling okay. I was feeling better, and I made a resolution to start staying on my normal eating and drinking plan from then on out.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting experiment because this could happen to anyone. So how did it work out for you?
In one sense, it was a massive failure. The day really did heat up. Both Lisa and I saw temperatures of 112 while we were riding, and my power and energy just dropped through the floor. 4 hours in, I was riding through a straight up bonk. Lisa was going as slow as she could and keep her bike upright, and I still could not hang with her.
Yeah, this reminds me of a story you've told of not eating during the Columbine climb and then paying for it for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and that is exactly how it felt too. I'm actually really grateful for the experience because it has been a long time since I've experienced that kind of moment on a bike. You know, the point where I had gotten a little cocky, to be honest, and thought my fueling strategy was optional. And so this was a great reminder that even if you aren't enjoying eating while you put in big efforts, you got to stick with it or you will pay a stiff price, which I did. So that is tip number 1 today. Constant fueling is not something you can stop doing for a couple hours or even an hour. I took off, I avoided eating and drinking for 3 hours. There was no recovering after that, even though I was very strict with my eating and drinking going forward. Tip number 2 also stemmed from that day, and it has to do with cramping. On the final big climb of the day, 7 miles of climbing, 2,800 feet, as the temperatures hit 111, I started cramping hard.
111. This was not your day, was it?
No. This is going to sound weird, Hottie, but I saw it as an amazing opportunity. It has been a long time since I have cramped during a training ride. I generally am lucky enough to cramp on race day. So I actually thought to myself, here's a chance to practice handling cramps. So I stood up while I climbed for a minute, stretched my calf muscles, tried to keep pedaling, then shifted to the very lowest gear I had and just, soft pedaled very slow. For the rest of the climb, I had to be very light on my pedal strokes, but I was able to stay on the bike. And slow, as you know, is faster than stopped.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we're saying that folks should seek out a bonk or cramps.
No.
Or practice underfueling in the heat so they have a sense of just how bad this can get. But everyone has a bad day on the bike once in a while. And catalyzing that bad ride into a next time I'll do better experience is a nice silver lining to that cloud.
Yeah, Hottie, forget the silver lining. I would have paid so much money for a cloud last weekend. 111 degrees.
Yeah, 111 degrees. Wait, let me guess. St. George?
No, this was in Utah County. It was just a hot day and a lot of heat absorbed into the pavement. I think my Garmin was reporting the heat waves coming off of the tarmac, but that same heat is hitting you in the legs and shins.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congrats on surviving at least and learning. Hey, while you're rehydrating and licking your wounds, Fatty, let's introduce the guests for this episode. Lisa, the Hammer Nelson, with 18 finishes and a 100% finish rate, 2 single-speed wins, and a lead woman podium, will be joined by another woman, professional cyclist Melisa Rollins, racer with Team 2024, top 10 finisher, that is, at the 2022 Lifetime Grand Prix, winner of the 2023 BWR Cedar City, and now a cycling coach with KX3 Lifestyle and Coaching.
Yeah. And it is probably worth mentioning that Melisa is Lisa's daughter, which means in addition to both of the women having a lot of experience with this race, they're able to talk about just about anything. It is a super candid conversation focused on women's training and racing experiences. I will say, I encourage absolutely everyone, women and men, to listen to this because chances are, if you're not a woman who races, you know someone who is.
Hi, I'm Melisa. I'm Eldon's stepdaughter and your daughter.
And my name's Lisa. Been married to Eldon for going on more than 14 years now. We got married when you were 14, so you've been Eldon's stepdaughter for quite a while.
Yeah, Eldon's been my dad for more years than he's not been.
Oh. And we have kind of a history with Leadville.
Just a little one.
Yeah, so our history, mine actually started even before I was married to Eldon. My first Leadville was back in 2000, and your first Leadville was?
2016.
I've done Leadville. This is going to be my 19th time. I started back in 2000, came back in 2005, and done it consistently since then. So I did, I think, 5 Leadvilles before I was ever even married to Eldon.
And I was 5.
You were 5 when I first started. So yeah, a long time ago. I think my first Leadville was when I was 32 and you're 29 right now. So over the course of those 18 finishes, I have raced single speed twice. I've done Leadville as the lead man. I've done it as slow as 11 hours and 55 minutes and as fast as 8 hours and 39 minutes. So I have a whole
You're a fast lady.
range there. I did my fastest time riding with Rebecca Rush as kind of my mentor. She pushed me to my 8:39. And then I really wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need Rebecca to do my sub 9. And I tried again the following year and did a 9:07. So that was a little frustrating. And I was determined more than ever the following year. And then that year I did, I think, an 8:49. So I've done it with help, and then I've done it on my own. So that's pretty exciting. So, yeah, lots of years, variety of Leadville. And how about you, Melisa?
So I have done Leadville 5 times. I've started at 6 times. I did not finish in 2017. My first year was 2016, and I finished it in 10-12. I went from 0 to hero. I hadn't, before that, I think maybe January of the year that I decided I wanted to race, I started riding via Trainer Road, and it whipped me into shape over the winter. And then I started training with you guys. You guys taught me how to do really long rides, and it prepared me for my first finish of a 10-12 at Leadville. And man, I caught the bug. I just had to keep coming back after that. I was back in 2018, and I also did Leadman that year. That's a story for itself. We don't want to hear about running on this podcast. Let me tell you all the things that you shouldn't do. Running is number 1. I came back for the next 3 years on and off, I guess, to race the mountain bike race. And every year I got faster.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
and you actually went and lived in Leadville. You were up there for a couple of years, and you lived there for the summer, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I loved Leadville so much that I decided I wanted to be a bum and pour beer at Periodic Brewing. We miss you. And yeah, I got to live up in Leadville, and I got to see in real time what kind of an awesome community it is.
Yes,
there.
I was very jealous. I wanted to move up there with you.
Oh, I wish I could do that right now.
Really helps with the race too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I've seen, I think the year that I lived up there, I saw St. Kevin's 23 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
Something to prepare you.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to do this podcast because last year, in 2023, there was, believe it or not, 260 women that lined up at the start line. And of those 260, 178 finished. So that's about a 68% finish rate. So 32% of those poor ladies didn't cross the line in under 12 hours. And I kind of wondered, and I talked to Eldon about it, maybe, Melisa and I should do a little podcast to talk about what potentially could help those 32% women cross that finish line.
Right. So remind me, how many times have you done it?
I've done it 18. This will be my 19th start.
Okay. So you've had 18 finishes. So you're a woman who has 100% finish rate.
Correct. I've never DNF'd.
I cannot say the same for myself.
Yes.
So
we've got a little experience between us on how to finish.
And how not to finish. But.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe learn from our mistakes and training. I mean, I'm not a professional cyclist. I don't have any basis except for experience that is going to drive this.
You're a professional finisher of Leadville.
Yeah, there we go. So it's just experience. And so I thought maybe me and Melisa could pass on some of our experiences with these ladies and maybe help them get their finish buckle.
So we've been brainstorming a little bit, some of the barriers that we might come across in why, around 30 to 40% of women are not finishing. And one of the first things to come to my mind is not understanding equipment. And I mean, mechanicals very seriously can stop your chances of finishing the race.
Yes. And I did almost have had an experience with that one my very, very first year.
Remind us what time you finished at.
I finished my very first Leadville in 11 hours and 55 minutes. And I think that at least 55 minutes of that was changing a flat tire. Believe it or not, in my training, I had multiple flats in my training rides, but someone always stepped up to change that flat. I mean, I'd watch them do it. I knew the concept. And as I started the paved descent right off of Kevin's, so we're talking 12 miles into the race, I immediately felt a thump, 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 thump. And I thought, oh no, I have a flat. And
12 miles? So where was that?
The first descent going down down towards May Queen. So
so you had made it up Kevin's?
I had made it up Kevin's and was just starting to descend.
Oh,
yeah.
So just like the undulating part.
Yeah, just the pavement.
Oh,
no.
Wait, what?
Literally the pavement.
You were on the pavement.
Literally the pavement.
Man, if I saw someone flat there, I would be like,
yep.
I'm so sorry. That sucks.
I had a big old Camelback on and I got off my bike and I couldn't find where my tube was. I needed a CO2. I didn't even know how to use the CO2. I didn't even know how to take the tire off. So I fumbled and fumbled and fumbled. And in the process of getting the wheel off, changing the tube, I watched the entire race go by me. So I literally was the last one. And I went to put the wheel back on and I couldn't seat it right. And it was going thump, 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 thump. And I proceeded down the pavement and there was a nice volunteer on the side of the road that I said, I don't know what's wrong with this tire. And he said, oh, you just don't have it seated. And he popped it back in. So 55 minutes, I would say 55 minutes. So, make your practice changing that tire. Don't let someone else do it. And Melisa, you had a good point about, like I said, I struggled with even finding.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big challenge for women, especially, I mean, men too, but like my hands are just not very strong. So when I first started learning how to change flats, I really could not, I've spent so many times in my basement when I wanted to learn how to switch tires.
Yeah.
Just crying because I could not, I could not get that last little piece over the rim. My hands are just not strong enough. I couldn't figure out how to do it. I had 2 tire levers going. I'd break tire levers trying. But what I learned is that if you put the bead in the center of the rim, it makes massive difference. Yep. And especially mountain bike tires, you should be able to do it pretty much with just your hands. You
Yeah.
You shouldn't necessarily need the tire lever if you get it seated correctly when you're putting it on. But that is something that you kind of learn with trial and error.
Correct. And now we don't even have tubes. Most tires are tubeless, which comes to you can dart.
Right. So
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
I don't even know how to do.
putting the tube in, right, is sort of a last stitch measure at this point. So I obviously really like to get things done quickly. I know that flats happen. So I'm prepared always with some kind of like bacon strips, or I use darts, but there's a lot of other products on the market that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a dart at the ready I have a pocket designated to flat repair potential always, whenever I race. So one pocket has a dart. It has a CO2 cartridge with the head semi-screwed on, not all the way, but I know how to use it.
Yep.
So it's ready to go. I have it rubber banded to my dart and a tire lever, and I have that ready to go really quickly, just in case. And I can get that done in less than 60 seconds if I have a really simple flat.
Right.
But I have also seen and had happen, a bigger sidewall tear that a dart's not going to necessarily fill
Fix.
up.
And so you probably need to know how to put a tube in.
Something that I actually like to do in training is if somebody else on the ride has a flat, I like to be Superman and
step up and do it.
Yeah, and use that as, a learning opportunity. Whereas it's really easy to be like, okay,
let someone else change it.
Yeah.
I'm the woman in the group.
Yeah. Don't play the woman card.
Yeah.
Be an empowered woman.
There we go. That's what we're going to talk about a lot, empowering us as women to finish this race. So, yes, know your bike, know how it functions, know how to quickly change it, and have your stuff available to you, because you didn't spend all this time training to be, not finished because you had a flat.
Yeah.
So.
Having things at the ready is really good. Not buried at the bottom of your Camelback and you haven't seen the tube that you're about to put in a year and a half.
Exactly.
And it might have a hole in it. You don't know. Just these things are really easy to check beforehand, and they could save your race.
For sure.
I was thinking another thing is descending.
Ah, the dreaded descent.
The elephant in the room.
I know.
I personally have always been a pretty good descender, and I actually was less of a good climber. So,
and me, on the other hand, never ever have been a good descender. I feel like I became a good climber because I was always so slow on the descent, and I had to hurry to catch up with everyone on the climb. So I became a better climber than descender.
This race has a lot of descending in it.
It does.
And one piece of it is the only piece of single track, and it happens to be a descent. I have been in the race before where I sort of felt held up on that spot. So I was curious what you think.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of divide. There's the three big descents. We're going to talk about power line first, which is the elephant in the room. It is the scariest descent, but honestly, it's not horrible. My thought process on that is that you need to descend it at your speed and your comfort, and you let anybody else pass you. So you pick the good line, you hold it, don't do anything unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, that descent is the spot where you see
crashes.
Well, I was going to say number one on the barriers, which is the flat.
The flat.
So if you are not confident in your flat changing skills, I would say stick to the line.
Yep, ride the good line.
Yeah.
Yep,
and if somebody wants to pass you, you hold your line and they get to deviate and risk having to get that flat.
Yep. So I say just ride your ride. You go down that, you be safe, and you let anybody else pass you. And honestly, most people are really, really good about that, which gives you confidence too. Because
yeah, I mean, the good descenders, they know how to call out to you. They know where it's appropriate to pass.
Yeah. So that's the big descent. You just hold your line, you ride that comfortably. The next one, the single track descent. That is a good question, because you are in a single track and you could potentially be holding up someone behind you. And that has happened to me.
Well, I did a little investigating on this section.
Yeah.
So we looked on Strava, and the fastest woman's time down that little piece of single track is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. You did it last year in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So
what we can conclude from that
is that the dramatic men behind you really can just chill for a second.
Yep.
Because maximum amount of time that they're going to be losing on that section is 2 minutes.
Right.
If they're so worried about losing 2 minutes on this race course, then maybe they need to work on their climbing skills.
I like that. So our thought process, do not get off your bike. Do not yield to the person behind you, because I think if you were to yield to the person immediately behind you, your remount is only going to disrupt the next person in line and you might crash them out. So hold your line, ride at your pace. At the worst, it's going to be you're holding up someone for a minute and they can make that up as soon as they drop onto the pavement.
It's not a lot of time and it's not worth you being anxious over, because it isn't. I mean, it's an easy spot to overthink it.
Yep. So
but it's really not long.
No. And like I said, I think it's worse to try to dismount and get back on. So hold your line, finish it out, let the person behind you chill.
And then now let's talk about
the other big descent would be coming off Columbine.
Yeah. So the upper section is probably the part that is most or hardest to pass.
Yeah, because you've got people coming up and you're coming down and you may have an anxious man behind you.
It's not long.
No.
It's really not. And you could lose so much more time by having a head-on collision with somebody coming back up than just simply waiting behind someone who's a little slower than you.
Yeah.
I mean, this race is not won on the descents. It's not finished in 12 hours on the descents. It is finished in under 12 hours, under 9 hours. It is finished on the climbs.
Yep. So just be comfortable. Hold your line. If there's someone behind you, it does open up. I think Melisa and I timed it. It's about a 5-minute descent until it opens enough that someone could pass you that's behind you. So just show confidence in yourself. I mean, I'm just speaking from my own words because I am that slower descender that is not confident. And if I tell myself, okay, I'm just going to ride this, and it's the person behind me's issue to get around me.
Yeah, but the lucky part, I mean, once you're that far into the race, you actually probably know all the people around you.
And I think that is a very, very good assumption, because you really do. What I found is that as we climb, I'll be passing many men. And then as soon as we hit the descent, those many men pass me. And it becomes, it's the
like,
story
see you
of
later.
Yep. And so that's actually what I do is I notice people that I'm passing on the climb. And then I say, I'll see you on the descent. And as they pass me, they'll call it out and they'll say, I'll see you on the climb. So
or maybe it can be a tactic where you get to develop the train that you're going to be riding with once you get to the flats. You're like,
I know.
I made this.
It's made the friends. They know, they have respect for you because they know that you're out there doing your best. And
yeah, I mean, why is it that women feel like their race entry that they paid for has to be,
we have to justify ourselves to be out there.
Yeah, and we have to be the ones to pull over.
Yeah.
It's not like they're pulling over on the climbs for you. Probably not happening.
No, it's not. And it is funny that as women that's what's happening. I mean, and maybe that's not everyone's experience, but that's kind of how I've seen it.
In just a moment, we'll continue this conversation with Lisa and Mel. But first, we asked Melisa, who, like our podcast, is sponsored by the feed, how she feels when training and racing.
Apart from the actual pedaling, I think that nutrition is probably the most important part of training and racing at Leadville. And I'm lucky enough to be a part of the feed's high performance team. So I have access to all of the different nutrition products at the feed. My current favorite training things to use from the feed right now are bars. I really like the Martin Solid Bar. It's super delicious. Along with the Sturker Date and Sea Salt Bar. They're so good. They make me want to eat on the bike when I'm out training. However, I don't like using bars in the race because it's super hard to eat at 10,000 feet. So I will switch over to some gels from Never Second, and I also like high carb drink mix from First Endurance, and that's what I use race day. I also use those at training, but supplemented with a couple bars because they're so freaking delicious.
Very well put. And I will just add that our listeners can try any of the things Melisa just described at a really great price by signing up for $80 in annual credit at the feed. Just go to thefeed.com/Leadville, sign up, and you get $20 in credit right away, as well as another $20 every 90 days. Use it just like cash in any order over $35. This is an outstanding discount you can use every 3 months. I definitely do.
Right, that is, Fatty. Once again, that's thefeed.com/Leadville. All right, let's get back to the conversation between Lisa and Mel, continuing on with the nutrition conversation.
Yeah. And from there, they are going to veer into topics that are more personal and very specific to women. If that's a problem for you, we get it. Thanks for listening this far. Find us at leadville.fm, rate and subscribe. See you at the starting line. Have I missed anything, Hottie?
No, actually, just listen through the whole thing, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that covers it, though. Back to Lisa and Mel.
Nutrition may hinder someone's ability to finish. And not because of necessarily the reasons that may be obvious, but I think that women specifically have this problem where they think that they need to go out and exercise to lose weight, and they don't want to eat when they're out there.
Yeah. I've known people like that.
I've done it. I don't know if you've done it, but
we're always concerned about our weight. And I think that, I mean, as we look at Leadville and training, and that we need to train like we would be riding a race, and that means fueling our bodies and not be thinking about weight loss. And I kind of think of it as my body as a car, and that everything that I'm putting into it while I'm training, while I'm racing, is like putting gasoline into my car. I'm burning it off. It's there to keep me going. And honestly, I kind of feel like I can go, if the temperature is the right temperature, I can go forever if I keep fueling my body. So I think that we need to rethink about food and calories, and when you're in the training mode, that it's really, you're fueling your machine to keep going, and that dieting is not something that you need to be thinking about, especially when you're training for an endurance race like this.
I mean, I have always been my fastest when I'm fueling maximum amount on the bike. I'm talking like 90 to 120 grams of carbs per hour. I don't think calories on the bike. I think carbs per hour.
Which is,
And I have been the leanest when I am actually eating the most when I'm out there.
Yep. So dieting out, don't think about that.
Yeah. It's not the time.
Exactly. How the heck do you go to the bathroom, Melisa?
Oh my goodness. Well, I race in a skin suit, so if I'm going to be fully nude in the woods if I have to pee. So, it's not fair, but this is what I do. 90 minutes before the race, I will chug a whole bottle of some kind of electrolyte water, and then I do not drink until the start of the race. I dehydrate myself, basically.
And that's not always wise.
I mean, it's not fair.
Exactly.
Men can
go on the fly.
I've seen it. I've seen it in races that men are on the side peeing while they're riding, which is insane. So I mean, but they also can just do it a lot faster.
Right. So how can we make it, how can we do it fast?
I mean, I think that companies are coming out with a lot of products for this
women
problem.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which is these drop bibs.
Yeah. Which I've actually used to wear just shorts, so it made it really easy, but I don't like shorts anymore. The whole muffin top thing just doesn't work for me anymore. So bibs are the way to go. And I have discovered drop bibs. What is that, what we call them? Drop short?
I don't know.
Bottom bibs?
I don't know. I maybe made it up.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. But I love them.
I mean, I think every company kind of has some kind of version of this. So you have a bib that or a chamois that you like, the company has it.
has a short. And
Yeah.
literally that means that we can keep our jerseys on. We don't have to empty our pockets and everything to take our jersey off, to take our shorts off.
No fully nude.
Yeah, exactly. You can just literally drop the shorts, and that is the secret. So if you're not one to dehydrate yourself prior to the race,
I wouldn't recommend it. It's actually crazy that is. I've done this for every professional race that I've raced.
Yep.
I've had to start this way because it's the only way that,
as a woman, that you can do it.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I actually, earlier in my racing, I just didn't go to the bathroom either. But now as I'm a little bit older, I tend to need to go to the bathroom more frequently. So that's why I discovered these shorts and absolutely love them.
I think a lot of people have questions about how people deal with their periods in racing.
Right. And it's just something that we don't talk about a whole lot. My experience over the years is that I actually have been on contraception that has hormones in it so that my periods are pretty light and I don't have much fluctuation in the hormone levels throughout the month. So I was lucky in that way that periods have not been an issue for me until I went off my oral contraception when I was about 40, and had to deal with heavier periods and cramping and in the fluctuations in the hormones that basically affect the way you perform. And
Yeah. Would you feel differently throughout the month?
oh, yes. And I never really understood why.
Wait, that's crazy.
I know. Is it crazy? Because as a nurse, I knew that there was hormone fluctuations, but I didn't realize that there was anything that could really be done about it until actually I was going through menopause and I discovered a book. I think you might have told me about it.
Yeah, the Roar
Roar by Stacy Sims
and Celine Yeager.
and
Yeah.
Celine Yeager. What a fantastic book that if you are in your fertile years and you're menstruating and you're wondering how to deal with periods, this is a fantastic resource. It really talks about the effects of hormones on your body and how you can, with some nutritional support, get through these and race strong.
I have a hormonal IUD,
Mm-hmm.
so I also don't really have a period. And with that, I've never experienced what it's like to start a period during a race.
Yes.
I have talked to other women who have
Mm-hmm.
experienced that. And I think many of them will use like the Diva cup.
Preemptively.
Preemptively.
Okay.
Yeah. It's whatever your personal.
Yeah. But this book really kind of presents some ways of dealing with it that I did not know even existed.
You can't change when Leadville's going to happen.
Right. You can't really change when your period's going to come either. So.
Exactly. So being able to understand how your body changes throughout the month and what it means to have the race land 2 days before you start your period versus 2 days after you start your period is powerful to know these things and how to train through them and what's happening in your body.
Well said, Melisa. And then that leads us to the opposite end of the spectrum where I've started, or I think I've completed the whole menopause thing. I was looking at the start line totals for 2023, age 50 to 59-year-old women. There was 41 women started in that age group. So
That's a lot.
that's a lot. And in the 60 age group, there was 8 starters. So there's well over 50 women on the start line that either have gone through menopause or starting menopause.
Yeah.
And menopause is huge. It's always that elephant in the room that we don't really talk about either.
I mean, the cool thing is that you've done this since you were in your 30s.
Yeah.
So how did the race change for you?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
The whole concept of how I felt over the course of these 25 years of racing. I mean, it used to be that, I was strong. I had
you're
lots
still
of power.
strong.
Yeah, but I could hit the high watts and I could hold them for a while. I was a fast climber. And then I hit my 50s and I was working just as hard. My perceived effort as hard, but I'm not hitting the numbers anymore. And that was really a hard thing for me to grasp. I knew it was going to happen. But I think also I feel empowered knowing that it's going to happen and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Stacy Sims, who wrote Roar, also wrote a book called The Next Level, Your Guide to Kicking Ass, Feeling Great, and Crushing Goals Through Menopause and Beyond. And that was super helpful too. She gives some advice about taking some adaptogens, which are some herbal supplements to help you through it. My mental state through menopause, I know some people struggle a whole lot. I have just not had that. I feel as good now as I ever did. I'm happy. And maybe it's these adaptogens that are helping me. I feel strong on the bike. I may not be pushing the same watts. I may not be moving as fast, but honestly, that's an acceptance thing that's going to happen. I am getting older, but I still feel good on the bike. So I think that there's...
and you still ride really well. It's not...
Exactly.
And there's these other pieces that you've, mastered that help you succeed at Leadville every single year, which is nutrition, knowing how to fix mechanicals, all of these things that we just talked about.
The things that you can change versus I am getting older and I am going to slow down, and accepting that and being happy with it. There's other things in life that are good as I grow older that I can accept. So, so I would suggest if you're in that menopause stage or pre or post, reading that book by Stacy Sims, very helpful.
There's stuff out there that can help.
Yep. Of those 41 starters that were 50 to 59, 20 finished. So we're looking at about a 50% rate there. So it can be done. It can be done.
Something that I want to talk about because I don't feel like it's talked about enough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel fair to me because I'm a professional athlete who has had many people basically tell me they don't know what I should do.
And what's that? What's your problem?
I have saddle sores chronically all the time. Basically, since I became a professional cyclist, I have had at least some kind of saddle sore going on. At one point, I had 11 saddle sores.
Oh.
I have tried bike fits. I've tried probably 15 different saddles. I have tried riding only my mountain bike, only my road bike. It doesn't matter. I always get them. I've tried showering before my rides, immediately after my rides, new chamois every time. I've tried chamois cream, various types of chamois creams. And honestly, I have not really found a lot of answers. It gets better and it gets worse. But I find comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one that deals with this. And unfortunately, it feels like there's just not a lot of research done on women specifically, because I think women specifically have a lot of saddle issues that they're just taught not to talk about.
Right. We just accept.
Yeah.
Well, I also have had problems over the years with saddles, and I really didn't know what was wrong.
I mean, was it just like, were you just having a lot of pressure?
So I wouldn't even say pressure. It all started when Eldon and I were riding long on our road bikes. We actually trained and accomplished riding from Salt Lake to St. George,
which is like
420 miles or something. And so it was leading up to that, and I would have excruciating pain after riding. And I'm talking.
I mean, can we just be like anatomical?
Yes. So
were you having?
It was my labia that was very, very itchy. Like just my crotch in general was itchy. I would go on rides and I would finish, and my I don't even know how to explain it. My perineum, wherever, was abrased. I had abrasions all over it. I would urinate and the acid would get into them, and I'd want to scream in the bathroom. Gosh, I'm going to cry over it. I'd get in the shower.
I mean,
I would get in the shower and I would cry when the water would hit me. Yet I had no one to talk to. I didn't know what was wrong.
I mean, we've been taught since we started that cycling is just uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
For women.
That's exactly right. And I talked to Eldon and I said, maybe I need a new seat. And we tried the dropout seat. And still, I was in intense pain.
So you tried the seat like with the cutouts?
The cutouts. And I did get some relief from that, yes. But I figured it was just me. I had to deal with this. But the itching was just beyond what I could endure. And I thought, well, maybe this is the start of menopause. Maybe I need hormones. Maybe that's why I'm itchy. So I made the appointment to see my gynecologist. And what a life changer. She actually told me that I had an enlarged labia, which I honestly didn't even know. And that was the thing that was being irritated by the bike seat. That was being irritated by the tampon string. I mean, I literally almost cut it off with a tampon string going back and forth across it. So
This is awful.
this is what I was dealing with, and had to smile at the end of my ride and say it was a great ride, honey. So I actually went in and had a procedure called a labiaplasty done, where they actually removed that extra skin. And honestly, ever since then, I mean, it was a 6-week recovery after that. It was not a horrible surgery. I was back on the bike in no time, and I have never even looked back or thought about it. I don't itch. I don't have any pain. The seat, I still like the seat that has the cutout on it, but no problems at all. So my suggestion is really you don't need to suffer in silence. The bike seat may be an option for you to help your problem, but going in and talking to a professional is also can be very, very helpful. And I'm hoping that sometime, Melisa, you're going to find the answer to those saddle sores, because that's something that I just don't even.
Yeah, I mean, it could be related.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that is not researched.
Exactly.
I mean, the cool thing, and what I feel really cool about, or why I really wanted you to share that story, is because Bicycling Magazine just came out with a really awesome article that talked a lot about the same things, women having labiaplasties, because
I saw
that was their only option.
I know, and never would I have dreamed. I mean, I think this was 7 years ago that I had this done, and never even had a clue that I could physically, anatomically be something wrong with me that was causing my problems.
This was 7 years ago. You've been racing Leadville for almost 20.
I know.
So it's crazy that you didn't even know anatomically that this is something that was an option for you.
Exactly.
Or that you were not alone in having this.
Yeah. But I don't have a whole lot of cycling friends to say. And every cycling friend I'd say, do you itch? Do you have problems? No. So.
But maybe they didn't know at the time what you were talking about.
Exactly. So.
Because,
So if you're, suffering from any of these problems and it's holding up your training because of it, know that there
feel
could be something
empowered
wrong.
to talk about it, because it's so unfair that we have to be put in silence over a lot of this stuff, because it's so taboo to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is options out there.
Yeah, I mean, and there is women-specific saddles that Specialized has come out with to help with having enlarged genital
areas. Yep.
Yeah, and for some women, that could be helpful.
Exactly, and not even have to go down that route.
But it feels like we're kind of in the infancy of this research, and it could even get better over time.
Yep.
Which is the only, is the hope.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's much more that we can hit or how we can one up that one.
Yeah. It was a good story. I'm just happy to know that, you found answers. That's really cool.
I mean, we've talked about the things that could potentially hold up you crossing the line, but fitness is obviously, and the correct amount of exercise and workout plan is also very vital in getting you across the finish line. And I know a really good coach.
Who's that? I truly believe that this race can be finished by anyone who puts in the work.
I agree.
You can control so many different things, but training is one of those things. Mm-hmm. And if you need any help on how to hone in on that, even with only a few months to go until Leadville, I would be super happy to help. And you can find me at kigs3lifestyleandcoaching.com.
I know you're in the process of helping some ladies across that line.
I am. They're my favorite people.
Yeah, exactly. So
I love working with people who want to finish Leadville.
Yes. So anyway, if you have any, if you want to just fine tune these last couple of months, I think Melisa is the perfect person to get a hold of. She's one of the fastest women out there, and she wasn't always. So she can really hone your skills in just to get you across that line in 12 hours or less, or even 9 if that's your goal.
Yeah. So you got any big goals for number 19?
Honestly, I think that number 19 is just to survive it and enjoy it, which is hard to do. So get done in 12 hours so that I can cross the red carpet next year and earn that big buckle.
Ooh, then you can eat dinner off of it.
Exactly. Eldon can eat off of his and I off mine. I also, after having this conversation, it really is, as I get older, it's just the acceptance of, it's not going to be my fastest year this year, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. And I'm going to meet a lot of fun people. And what about you? What about you, Mel? What is your goal for this year?
I am in the Grand Prix this year, and I always want to finish as well as I can at this race. This race is my favorite race of the year, and I spend just as many days a year thinking about it as everybody else does.
Yes, and you are going to crush it.
Big thanks to Lisa the Hammer Nelson and Melisa Rollins. This was not a conversation a couple of guys could have, so we really appreciate these two bringing in some candor here.
Again, you can find Melissa's coaching at kx3lifestyleandcoaching.com. Fun fact, the KX3 part is because Kristen Armstrong, one of the principals in that coaching business, is a 3-time Olympic medalist.
Yeah, an Olympic gold medalist. And you can comment on this show at our webpage, leadville100podcast.com. The show's YouTube channel, yes, our pod is on YouTube, or our Slack channel. The Slack channel is probably the best because it is where you can find and engage with other listeners and Leadville racers. Check it out at leadville.fm/Slack.
Good luck in your Leadville training. Thanks for listening, and we will see you the second Saturday in August at the starting line.